I'm Gordon Gibby. I already introduced myself. I'm basically sort of a volunteer up in Alachua County. I'm not the EC. The ARRL Field Day began in 1933. It was something that some dude named F.E. Handy came up with. It was supposed to be a test of amateur radio operators' practice off-grid communications. And you guys already know it's the largest amateur radio exercise in North America. When I talk to EOC folks, I try to use the word exercise because it's theoretically not really a contest, but it involves a lot of preparedness kinds of things. The F category was created for EOC stations, and as I bet you all really know, have distinct issues to deal with. A lot of red tape. In 2003, Stanford took the entire F category with 15,000 points. They were a 7F station, which meant they had 7 transmitters. They had 30 people participating. In 2004, they swept it again at 8F. I mean, that means they had the highest score, all F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. The highest score of the entire F category. 2005, they swept it. 2007, what happened to 6? I must have skipped 6. Anyway, in 6, they took it to. 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. Finally, Tennessee. I'm told that's probably Williamson County. They're apparently very strong. In Tennessee, 2011, that was the first time anybody other than Stanford had ever swept it.
Look at the low score, too. Something else is going on there.
Yeah, 8,556. They only had 3 stations, but look what Stanford did. It went from 7 all the way down to 2F, and they still swept it. I looked at the Stanford campus using a satellite map, and I looked over their club, because I like to learn from the clubs. They are able to set stations up all over the place. They have a lot of free reign. I don't know how it's an EOC, but I guess Stanford campus has an EOC and the club is part of it. Well, guess who was back in running everything in 2012? It's Stanford. Apparently I can't type. That's supposed to say 2013. North New Jersey won it. 2014, North New Jersey, K2NG won it again. Then we're back to Stanford. Then North Long Island, back to Stanford, Tennessee, Stanford, Stanford. Are you getting the picture? 16 out of 23 years, Stanford swept the nation. Stanford, Stanford, Rhode Island, group out of, what's that, Arkansas? And then finally in 2025, our team, thankfully Stanford was not competing, swept it in the 4F category with 34 people helping. Most of those were visitors. And we had 9,000 points. We're the first Florida team ever to sweep the F category. That's not an official thing that gets observed, but we were happy. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know this had happened. One of my people said, "Hey, did you see what the score showed?" So I was pretty amazed. Well, what does Field Day test? Is it worth doing? Well, I argue that it is worth doing because it tests your setting. Have you figured out how to use what you've got to the best ability? Test your equipment. Can you operate simultaneously on multiple radios, as you might wish to be able to do in an emergency? It really tests your perseverance. There's a local club that quits around 5 o'clock. That's not a good plan. Test your skills. Are your people actually able to make contacts by more than just voice? Test your antennas. Be able to use all the bands. Test your organization. Can you plan for this? And would you be able to do the same sort of planning then as a result? You already know how things work. Test your teamwork, and that for me is one of the hardest. is convincing people to work together. It looks like Hillsborough County are really good at that. I'm very impressed in the conference. The bonus points that the ARRL sets for this are all designed to test, can you strengthen your group? So they ask for 100% emergency power, media, publicity, public location, message to section manager, you know all these. But every one of them is designed to strengthen your group. So we try to do them, as many as we can.
There wasn't go-to stations on that list.
Go-to stations is one of the things, and you can get extra points for having youth. And you get points just for making go-to contacts. But yeah, you definitely have a go-to station. We used that extremely effectively last year. We've never done very well at that before. But this year, we had 2 guys out there, and we had friends and family show up, and they really maximized it. Now, there are a lot of people who scoff at this, usually because they didn't score very highly, and say it's not that important, and maybe that's because they weren't willing to do the work. Someone pointed out to me that Hillsborough County achieved number 3 in the nation in 1F, so that's quite an accomplishment. So you guys are doing pretty decent down here. Made 374 contacts. I think you were running a 1F station, so 1 transmitter. And I hope I have the right Hillsborough County. I think that's the only one there is.
For each CA, that's us.
And 1,892 points. So more power to you. Congratulations. The first time we ever did this was 2020. We sort of made some waves because we broke away from a legacy club that kind of thought they owned the county for ham radio. But we couldn't get them to adopt anything new at all. So we finally gave up and just split up. We grew our results year over year. We had huge technological problems because we only have 1 coax. That's all we got. Now we have some VHF, UHF coaxes, but we have 1 HF coax, and they recently cut that. And it's 300 feet long, so we have some problems. We have personnel hurdles as well. During this 6-year effort, we made huge gains in our assets and huge gains in our personnel capabilities. So the things that I think it takes to put a winning station together, you have to maximize that setting, maximize your equipment, train for perseverance, develop your group's skills, improve your antennas, study your organization, develop teamwork. And our crew has once managed to pull this off. I don't know if we'll ever do it again. It takes a lot of things coming together to make this happen. We had a pitiful original set, just pitiful. When I first started, which was around 2016, we had 1 VHF, UHF antenna mounted on a fence at about 8 feet. That was it. We had a dual transformer matched vertical for HF on the same fence. This is an antenna that is famous for having high loss. It's been studied and mapped, and it's up to 10 dB loss on various bands, so it's a famous antenna for getting rid of power. Good dummy load. We had a Yaesu System 600 commercial radio that still to this day, we have to get the manual out to figure out how to change the frequency. We had 300 feet of coaxial cable to get to anything, and our antennas experienced enormous noise on any band below 15 meters, so it was almost impossible to make an HF contact. Almost impossible. Just S meter way up there with noise. Now this is a sort of busy slide, but if you look at this top blue line, that is the noise on our antenna at the ESC on a spectrum analyzer. This is the 80 meter band, and this is the 40 meter band, and all you see is noise. You don't see any stations. This is my house, the 80 meter band, and in the 40-meter band, and you see broadcast stations, ham stations, signals everywhere, and the noise level is like 30 or 40 dB below where it is at the EOC. So in order for us to make a contact, the station had to be running about a kilowatt within about 100 miles, or we couldn't hear them. It was pretty pathetic. And that had been the way it had been apparently for a decade, until I came along and said, why don't I hear any stations? These bands are normally teeming with stations. I can't hear anything. They make it very difficult for us to add any cables, and they cut the only one that we did have. Severely limited antenna placement possibilities. They always talk about aesthetics instead of function. So EOCs tend to love vertical antennas. They don't like horizontal antennas. But if you're trying to reach Tallahassee, which is one of our missions, you need a horizontal antenna, not a vertical. The building we were in was a computer data center. It had enormous backup switching power systems, multi-kilowatt switching power systems, and they were basically spark gap transmitters. So that's where all our noise came from, and we could never get rid of the noise. Enormous amount of noise. Other EOCs that I've communicated with have noise coming from their HVAC systems. The electronically commutated motors make a lot of noise. We thought we were dead meat. And then quite by accident, in the year 2019, we made a discovery that this noise was not far-field noise, it was near-field noise. And we didn't realize that. Near-field noise is when you're very near to the source of the noise, and the near-field noise decays very rapidly at 1 over r to the 4th. Once you get into the far field, it's only 1 over r squared. So since we were near field, and it was decaying rapidly, when we walked out into our parking lot, we suddenly had a lot less noise. We had made the mistake of putting an antenna on top of the building, paid a lot of money, had a climber, had a telephone pole installed, this expensive antenna installed above the building, enormous noise. Put up an antenna out in the parking lot, and it's far quieter. So then we started realizing what we needed to do. There was a field across the fence on the far side, just a wooded field, and the county ended up purchasing that field for reasons that I'm not quite sure why, but we said, can we put an antenna there? And they said, have at it. So our team took 270 feet of wire and built our own 1L balun, got some rope, put up our own antenna, got even more coax and reached that. And that allowed us to build an antenna that we could actually hear stations on. So for the very first time in about 2019, we had an HF radio that could reach Tallahassee, the state EOC. There is a 10 kilowatt broadcast station just about a mile away from us. And during the daytime, that can overwhelm our spectrum analyzer, which makes it hard to make measurements. But at night, that's not as much of a problem. We also got our hands on a diesel generator that's governor controlled, so it makes no RF noise. So we began to build power systems and antenna systems that would not involve any noise. And we learned how to buy MIF-23 filters, commercial filter that can handle up to 23 amps, and it's got 50 or 60 dB of common and differential mode rejection. Those measurements are done at 50 ohms, so they're not necessarily representative of what they do in a real situation. But nevertheless, we were able to knock down the noise from generators by huge amounts. Maximize the equipment. Well, I told you we had this crappy commercial radio that was almost impossible to use. And we managed to get a 7300. And then volunteers added a Heath kit that was vacuum tube and EMP proof. We still only had one antenna. How are we going to run more than one station? So our initial solution was we stuck a travel trailer on the same property. You know, on the field day, you're required to operate inside a 1,000-foot diameter circle. We stuck generators out in the travel trailer because it's Florida, it's hot as Hades. And we learned how to get rid of the noise. And so now we could have 2 stations. Try to maximize ergonomics. Bought extra monitors at thrift stores, and we bought used computers on Amazon. One of our team members likes to have an 80-pound Go box, so he built that Go box, but we were able to set up, our EOC is far smaller than yours, very much smaller. You could fit our entire EOC room in this room right here. But we're able to set up there and use that during field day. We studied the ICOM 7300, what its bandpass filters are good for and protecting you from other stations on the air at the same time. It's not the greatest bandpass filters. It's a nice radio, but it's nowhere close to a $10,000 radio, and its bandpass filters don't have a huge amount of rejection. So we started building our own bandpass filters. Our very first bandpass filters were Butterworth filters from an article that the ARRL has on its technical website. And they're nice, but they're not great. We did use those at one of our field days because people couldn't transmit. We had 7 different antennas at that field day, and you could be heard on other antennas. So the bandpass filters helped us out a lot. But what you really need are 70 dB of isolation, just like a repeater from other stations. And so I think it's VA6AM Pavel markets a filter that uses some really neat tricks with notches appropriately placed so they add together to get band passes in between. And we bought kits from Pavel because his finished stuff is kind of expensive. You see them in those blue boxes that we bought off Amazon. And we built all these kits, and we tuned all these kits with the spectrum analyzers. We had get around the kitchen table building sessions to tune these filters. And we took Pavel's ideas and we expanded his ideas, and pretty soon we could even put 5 and 6 transmitters on the same antenna, which was good because we only had one of them. Then we tried to do everything we could to build the lowest loss antennas we possibly could. So anything with loss we got rid of. We have a team that's a father and son team that handle our mesh networking because we were running stations inside the 1,000-foot circle, and so we had to have high-power mesh systems to run our database. So we run a private internet database over Ubiquity, and we use Arden software for that. And we have our own little database server that keeps track of points and links all of our stations together. And that had some problems in various years, and we slowly learned how to avoid getting it near high-power antennas because it completely overloads. Safety. We always try to make sure there's no public hazard. Keep all ends of antennas as high as we can, calculate the radiation hazard limits. We never come close to the radiation hazard limits, but we calculate them. Lighting protection, there have been years when we forgot to put those up, but most years we try to make sure all of our antennas are protected. We've had to stop operating a lot of times due to thunderstorms. This is a slide of we have trouble sometimes with our logging system, and the logging guys are not always there, so they put up a cheat sheet of what to do if the network crashes, which has been known to do. Keep us going. We have multiple highly committed volunteers in this effort. They have the attitude of winners. They are used to serving and sleeping on the floors of our shelters during hurricanes. We routinely run right through the night during field day. Nothing stops. We just keep on going. If there's stations to work, we'll work them. We do an intricate analysis when we can of our work. This is the number of contacts per hour, and I think this was 2023. And I have it marked for who was operating, and you can see we hit 90 contacts an hour aggregate, and it was, I think, at midnight. And then it begins to drop off by 2, 3, 4 a.m. But we tried to track how well we did and figure out what was working and what wasn't. This is winter field day. I think this is winter field day this last year, and you can see this is the aggregate number of contacts per hour, and you can see we finally gave up in the middle of the night. We got some sleep for a few hours, but mostly we keep running. And we have the range of operators. We tried to develop group skills. So other groups in the area don't really push people learning how to use WinLink like you guys have done. But we have a huge effort to teach digital techniques because you get more points and you get more emergency communication skills out of it. We also have a couple of CW operators, and one of them. We learned how to auto or semi-auto populate the fields in the database during field day. A lot of our people are not very good on computers. So this helps them get a little better at dealing with computers. So it's a skill builder for them that helps out in other ways. So we notice that most high performance clubs are doing a lot of CW. Not so many are doing digital. I think your group is fairly strong at digital. And that gets you 2 points, whereas a voice contact only gets you 1. So now, actually our weakest area is probably voice. People like doing digital, like doing CW, and we have trouble getting to do voice. Having 300 feet of coax doesn't help. We try to do digital training in whatever mode is allowed during different exercises. We will try to train people how to do that. For CW operations, the Win keyer is key to that because it allows you to send perfect Morse code even when you're on the Windows operating system. And it integrates with the database and records call signs. And we built our own keyer because the Win keyers are expensive. And there's an Arduino version of it, so I built the circuit board. And we had a big building session. I think we built 10 or a dozen of these things. And we have a manual, and we have the board, and the girders, and everything, so any club could repeat what we did. And those make CW operation far better. This is an operator comparison. And as you can see, we have some high flyers, and we have some not so high flyers, but the skill at which they make contacts only varies over about 2 to 1. Even our best people are not that much better than our worst people. So everybody is beneficial to our group. And what I've observed year over year is that the people who really try constantly get better. Year over year, they get way better in their skill set. I guess practice does make perfect, but they learn how to use computers better, they learn how ham radio works better, they learn how to read bands better, they just get better. We try to use the best antenna for the distance that we need. Verticals are really only useful for reaching the West Coast. They're not that useful for reaching Tallahassee or Tennessee. So we try to use horizontal antennas a good bit, NBIS antennas, the lowest loss antennas we can. We developed this multi-band multiplexer system that allows us to put 3 or 4 people on one antenna and they coexist without any problem. Do y'all know what the MARC unit is? Y'all have any experience with the MARC units? This is a, you've heard of it? Yeah. So they provide 100-foot towers to provide repeater support to firefighters. And there's 8 MARC units in the state, and they are expressly encouraged to help out ham radio clubs during field day. So if you want them, they will come by and put their tower up to about 50 feet, and you can hang anything you want off of it. And it's a great interoperability builder because you learn how to use their tower, and they learn how to put up ham radio antennas. A lot of learning needed for that. I've had the MARC unit training, so it was several years back. So theoretically, I can help put up one of their antennas. It's quite an involved system because it's very expensive and very dangerous piece of equipment. We did not have our own beam. We managed to get a beat-up tower that actually had to have some stuff re-welded. And that 80-year-old guy in the picture there helped weld the materials to build us a tilting base for it and a cradle for it so we could actually have our own tower trailer without paying for it really. And then we found a beam and it was in horrible shape. We had to disassemble all the traps and clean them out with Diet Coke. And fixed the broken wires, and we got that beam working again. There's a lot written on how to reduce antenna to antenna interference. If you don't do that, you really can't operate multi-antennas. So KA2C, I think is his name. Yeah, KA2C is an expert at this, and we studied all of his papers on what way you can get antennas not to interfere with each other. And we tried to do what he said. So 1 year, this is our circle. Our EOC is the white roof at the bottom. And that's where we're primarily located. And there's, at the upper left of the circle, there's a grassy field with some pine trees. And that's where we set our trailer, and we connect the two by a microwave mesh system. So we have for many years done a dress rehearsal, full dress rehearsal, which I'm not sure I can keep my group doing. But we set up all these antennas, and in the dead of night, we took coax cable and a spectrum analyzer, and we did every pair, exciting the antenna with the spectrum analyzer tracking generator, measuring the signal with the spectrum analyzer, and we mapped the isolation band by band by band for all the permutations. And we discovered, basically, you got to get 200 to 300 feet apart. That's the trick. It's nice if you're vertical and the other guy's horizontal, but what you really want is space. And so we try very hard to get antennas as far apart as we possibly can if we're not going to be on the same antenna with our band multiplexer system. This was a map of the coupling between a Yagi that was at a main camp building and a vertical antenna that I put up at a camp cabin at a camp that we used 1 year. And you could see it ranged from negative 60 dB coupling to negative 80 dB coupling. And anytime it was 70 or better, you could operate any band you want, and the other guy can't hear you. So that was very helpful to us in knowing, if we get this far apart, we can be on, I can be on 20 meter CW, you can be on 20 meter digital, and we don't bother each other. This is amazing. We have even operated 15 kilohertz apart. It was not easy. We had to use a lot of tricks on the receivers to pull that off. But if you give us 100 kilohertz, piece of cake. So by doing that kind of stuff, we can put lots of people on the air simultaneously, and they're all pulling in points. And they've got to be able to use their receiver. So knowing how to use a receiver and making receivers functional is how we win. And then we use the best technique we can possibly get. This last winter field day, we took that off-center fed dipole that normally we hang vertical in a tree. It's a homemade one, Alabama. And instead we hung it as an inverted V off of a 35-foot carbon mast on the back of my pickup truck. And we were astonished at how well it worked. We just worked all over with that simple antenna. And we could even put the antenna multiplexer on it. We had to use RG316 cable at one point to get out the front door of the EOC, but we switched back to bigger cable outside the door. This was a big, big success for us. And this came from a field day when a guy simply did the same thing and just hung an in-fed long wire. And the Dakota station made zillions of contacts with that stupid antenna. It worked. So we're not arguing. You make contacts and we'll take it. So challenges. Well, our EOC is moving, and the new place they're moving is much more constrained, and there's a lot of paperwork, and they're not terribly, they don't think they need us really, because they think Starlink is going to solve all their problems. So we're having a few growing pains with them. Do the best we can. We're here to try to provide backup communications because we're convinced anything can break. We began planning our exercises months in advance. We try to use the ICS system as much as we can. We actually write up an incident action plan for our field days. We do it on an ICS 201 form, on a briefing form. We try to plan every single thing. At the end, or if we're all pretty beat, we'll wait a few days and we'll have a hot wash session. Every single comment in the hot wash is recorded and goes into our after action report. All of our after action reports are published and readable on our website for 6 or 8 years. You can see everything we've done, every stupid mistake we made. I did kind of whitewash a near fist fight that occurred in our first exercise. Kind of glossed that over a bit, but you can see everything that we've done and every mistake we've made. We come up with an improvement plan. There are typically 2 to 3 dozen items that we have identified that we didn't do so well. And we will list every single one of those, and we will try to fix them. And we've been doing that for 6 years. So we fixed hundreds of problems in our group. And of course, new problems. We managed to make new mistakes every year. This is an example of, in the winter field day that we just finished, we were in the upper, actually 7%, a few more logs came in since we filed, but we were in the upper 7% of the indoor category nationally, and that's despite having a lot of problems in that particular winter field day. We want to do much better pre-event testing of our antennas. Remember, they cut our coax, so we can't really test our antennas without laying out 200 feet of coax and pavement protectors, and it's a big deal to connect to our antennas anymore, but we failed to test them and we ran into some problems that slowed us up. So we got some things to fix. Just a dozen, 2 dozen things to fix every year that we need to work on. This was our 2025 field day. This was the year that we were first in the F class in the nation. I'm not running out of time. No, I'm still doing good. We had about 16 people that were part of our team. It's a pretty small group. It's much smaller than the group that's just here today. We still pull off a pretty good thing. In the winter field day, we had even fewer participants. So I need to improve on that. For me, it was very obviously that I improved dramatically. I went from making 40 contacts to one year I made 379 contacts by myself. I just sequestered myself. I didn't want anybody bothered, and I just had fun. Our team learned how to do FD8. A new team member encouraged us to do FD4. We learned how to do that. It's a mind game. It's a mind game. And it's too fast for me in some ways, but other people have great fun at it.
Not to interrupt, there's a FT2 out there.
Oh my gosh.
It's super fast.
Oh, I don't know if I can do
Still
that.
under development, but you can, suppose I went on source to get it, and it kept coming up saying there was all kinds of Trojans and stuff, so they got something in there that the virus busters haven't figured out yet. So I haven't been able to load it, but they've had like 3,500 downloads.
Wow.
Of the thing. And
Oh my gosh, wait until
guys that have tried it, it's really
we've got this super competitive guy in our group, and when he hears that, I won't hear the end of it.
It's not even done by the same guy that does
Different,
the
yeah.
WSJTX,
Yeah.
but it's another group doing it.
But this has made our group way stronger. The amount of assets that we have, the generators, the radios, the go boxes, the antenna multiplexers, that's a pretty big improvement in our group. There was another group just south of us, Sun Country Amateur Radio Club, and I was amazed to look at their data year over year. We and they were neck and neck. They were getting better just as fast as we were. So participation, when you really decide to do your best, any group gets better. It wasn't just us, it was Sun Country. Now this particular year they didn't do so hot, and that can happen because things change, people change, and things change. But I was amazed that we were not the only group that was solidly developing. We went from 250 contacts to 1,600 contacts over a period of 5 years. So we 8 times the number of contacts, and we just exploded. We got so much better at what we're doing. And we try hard to make it fun. I'm not the best at that because I'm kind of a do it this way kind of guy. But we have enough more docile people in our group that we have a lot of fun. This is us doing a 4A effort at a camp. It was hard work for us. It was really hard work for us. But we pulled off a 4A and we came out pretty good. We're not terribly competitive in the A category. We're much more competitive in the F category than the A. We try to use this to bring in new participants and give them a chance to see what we're doing and learn about how radio really works when you're in a hurry and you need to move stuff quickly. That bothers our participants because they don't like having to stop and explain stupid stuff to a new guy, but you don't grow if you don't do them. This is a graph of our performance from 2020 when we first started. Looks like it was 240, 250 contacts, and then we hit 1,600 in 2024. We did about the same number of contacts in 2025, but we had a lot more of them were good contacts, and it made us much more points. And we have constantly developed more CW and more digital, and we actually need a little help with our phone. So that was what we did, and I think any group could do, you know, the same kind of ideas. It took us a lot of work. I don't know if we'll ever run it again, but I was happy to dethrone Stanford for at least 1 year. And I was amazed because no Florida team has ever swept the F category in the history of this. And we're a state that gets hit by hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and we have lots of strong EOC teams, and yet they don't seem to be able to put it together for field day. And we don't know why.
That used to be why field day was there.
Yeah.
The EOCs were big participants. But then,
Yeah.
you know, where, stupid question, where's Alachua County? What is their big town?
Gainesville.
It's Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's I-75 where the Gators play and
Yeah.
tried hard
Big
to beat
college.
other colleges.
What you might do in the off-season is go out and do some QRP park work. Works on the air or that kind of thing, when you set up, break down, because 90% of what you ran through for problems as a QRP, we run into every time we go out.
Right, yeah.
It's a field day every time we go
Right.
out. If there's more than one person operating in the area, it doesn't make any difference whether it's 5 watts or whatever, you have the same problems. You can't cross the antennas, you can't do this and that. And you learn, it took you 5 years, would probably take you like 5 weeks of doing QRP work out in the field.
Yeah.
5 watts or less, I run 27 milliwatts.
Wow.
Right? When you're running low
Don't overdo
power
it.
and very low power, you need every inch you can get.
Yeah.
And on HF, what I'm running now and I have for the last year is a 43-inch antenna with a coil on it.
Uh-huh.
And I've got about 7 states left to hit all states.
That's great.
Okay.
Which bands are most productive for you?
20 for sure,
20.
because that's where the people are.
Yeah.
It's not because it's the best band, but it's your best chance of finding something.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did, and you'd find this out, and it would be to your advantage in regular field day. I ran my 27 watts with Whisper from here in Florida.
Right, yeah.
And I covered the United States
Yeah.
completely, and then Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
With that 43-inch antenna in the coil, 27 milliwatts from the front yard going through my middle house.
Wow.
And then my RV sitting over there. So, and it was just like 15 feet away from the house, metal siding, the whole thing, or the whole thing's metal. And that. But I let it run for 24 hours. And then looked at the signals as it crossed the continent. And
Right.
you could see you can see the
Sweeping
effects
west.
of the gray line,
Yeah,
and so you know where to point your beam if you had one,
yeah.
and when to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sharpens you up in that fashion, because you can, people think that the gray line is straight, and of course it isn't, it's
Yeah, great
it's
circle.
curved. So, you know, if you want to hit up there, then you can kind of come around that way, and
Mhm.
with the beam, particularly when you're down here in Florida.
Right.
I have the reverse situation in the summer when I go to Maine. I'm sitting up at the other end,
Right.
and then I have to deal with it differently down here.
Yeah.
So I always run Whisper first to see where I'm going that day, that minute,
Mm-hmm.
that hour on that antenna.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll run it, I've got two different units. I've got one that's made for a balloon.
Mm-hmm.
QRP Labs makes that little guy like
Yeah.
that. That's all
Yeah.
it is. And that's the one I run portable whenever I go out, because it's got a GPS in it and all the other stuff. And all the timing is in it. I don't have to screw around with nothing.
Right.
And then I've got a solar beams, 200 milliwatt or 100. It's programmable.
Uh-huh.
And I'll run that. And between the two of them, whenever I go out, I run the Whisper first. I find out where I'm going from that particular location
Mm-hmm.
with that antenna.
Wow.
Because
That's very impressive.
I change my antennas from in-fed half waves and in-fed randoms, loops that are made. These are all
Mhm.
homemade antennas. I don't buy anything,
Mm-hmm.
and that I don't have to. And that's where you really find out what your antenna system's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to get places with the Whisper and digital that you're not going to get with sideband, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But this will tell you at least the way your antenna system is working.
Mm-hmm.
It'll, if you run it through, like on some of my units, you have to run it through your transmitter, so you know that that's where it's going to ride. And then some of the other, the balloon one is a transmitter all by itself.
Right, yeah.
So just get it.
Those are great ideas.
But it's almost, I mean, it's just what you had for
Right.
problems, minus the logging and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, up until 2-3 days ago, I didn't know that there was a logging program in an FT8 program for iPads, iPhones, and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I just downloaded that about 3
Mhm.
days ago and just started playing with it. Looks
Mhm.
to me like it's the QRP's answer
That's great.
to this whole thing, because all you need is your phone
Mm-hmm.
and your transmitter.
Yeah.
And it takes just a regular C cable on both sides to go into my particular transmitter from a phone, and it just, there's no signal link, no anything else, just the battery to run the radio.
That's great.
That's the regular iPhone thing.
Yeah. We've got a guy in our group that we used to teach POTA, and he likes that kind of stuff. And he doesn't use as low a power as you do, but we've used him very effectively to give demonstrations, and he's going to head up you probably know all this, there's a Florida POTA contest coming up, 4 days in April, and he's heading up a group of us to do that. And we've tried to do the Florida QSO party. One year we did an expedition where we set up at 2 different places, so we got it down to 15-minute setups and teardowns, and we all got deer ticks. One of the parks we went to was infested with ticks, and we all came home and found ticks all over us. They didn't want to go back to that park.
You mentioned that you couldn't do a horizontal antenna or invis.
No, we do.
GOC, I thought you said.
No, I said a lot of EOCs won't do that. They will try to restrict. I hear this story from other places.
We got a tall wall around the back of our EOC.
Mhm.
contains antennas and that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. We just lay the wire on top of the
Yeah.
tall wall.
Yeah,
And it was just great.
right, yeah.
The other thing, my group up in Indiana, next week they're starting, they're gathering in Zoom meetings to plan this year's Field Day.
No, good for them. How many people are in that group?
Oh, what would you think? It was probably 30. 30.
What class do they enter? A?
They were in A, yeah, they're in A. They were in 3A.
Uh-huh.
They won that every year. So
Yeah.
in one year, they won the whole thing, the highest
Woo!
score, the
Yeah.
all transmitted.
Yeah,
But now they're doing 4A.
yeah,
And they set a couple of trailers out with CW
Right.
operators and
Yeah.
generators. They're all
Yeah.
isolated.
right.
And then the FT8s over on one side of the room, and then they get a couple of sideband
Yeah.
stations. And then they get the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they find someone that cooks for a church
Uh-huh.
to organize the food.
Yeah.
And they have the best food for
Yeah.
3 days. Going on.
That's great.
Yeah, they've got it.
Our cook did really good, but then he didn't make any contacts that year. So we had great food, but we lost a bunch of contacts.
Well, ours was also a go-to person.
Yeah.
We had, one year, we had 3 Kathys, and they
Oh,
were running
my.
the go-to. It wasn't her, it was 3 other ladies that were one year.
But they're serious. They don't want any fun.
Oh, that's not so good, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. And then they have shift work. I used to
Yeah.
I used to live like, I had a trailer, camper, 2 miles from them. So I'd go in like 3 o'clock to
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah,
And operate for them.
yeah.
So that's how they cover 24
Oh,
hours.
good for them. I think competition really helps groups get stronger. And it's tough to just create a disaster, so you can practice that, so it's a little easier to do these kinds of things.
One year we had a guy that had a satellite tracking station.
Mhm.
And it was like 20 feet tall, and they had
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
and they would just lock on.
Yeah.
And every pass, they get a satellite.
Oh, my gosh.
So you should
Yeah.
go.
Oh, well, I give my eye teeth for that kind of capability. All right, any other comments? If not,